It's the SKOR North Twins Show. Baseball.
Don't let the Twins get
the meter is
no.
The needle is going to the right.
Right over there.
Don't let the Twins get hot.
Where's it going?
I know Judd has flipped his entire outlook on the organization, the season.
Yeah. Oh my God.
One of the great weeks in recent Twins history. Let's go. Baseball.
Yeah. Winners of 4 of their last 5, 2 series wins against 2 really good teams. Yeah, it's a bummer because if they actually did complete the comeback on Sunday, they'd be entering with a chance to be 500, which would be even great. I mean, they still have a chance to go into the break at or above 500, which is also a little crazy. So crazy what a week can do for Twins baseball.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's also crazy what lowering your own bar time and time again can do for how you feel about them winning a few games in a week in July. Not to pour cold water on this already, but this has been, outside of the 13-game winning streak, this has been like probably the next best week of the season for the Twins, right? Like that was like a 2-week stretch, so that's the best 2 weeks. And this is like the 3rd best week of the Twins season. Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair. Yeah. I think that's fair, Judd.
Probably. Judd just pursing his lips, agonizing over praising this team right now.
Have you guys heard or read about the human condition of shortly before a person dies, they have like a few great days or like a great week where they just pop up and it's like, oh my God, Ted's gonna make it. I mean, what's going on here? And then that's it. That's how I feel about this baseball team.
Oh wow.
They're popping up and here's the thing that really ticks me off. They're doing it close enough to the trade deadline that they're going to make a case for, well, don't sell. Don't sell. Look at what we're doing. Yeah. And that you know what? If this was how you chose to conduct yourself, then don't have a terrible April. Then have a June that's not terrible. Like I am not buying this at all. I think that this is just this is the final thing, and then the Twins won't sell, and we'll get to August 2nd, and they will win 2 of 12 games.
So you're more disgusted that they would keep their food down here the week before.
I've seen this too many times from teams just like this. So
yes, they're turning a corner.
Yep, I am disgusted because they're not plucky.
Yeah, well, they're pluckiness has been a word to describe a lot of Twins teams in the past.
Yeah, that's a vague term.
They're wildly inconsistent, and they have a wide range of variance for what could happen in any given week or in any given month, wider than most teams in baseball. Yeah.
I'll rephrase. They are not young enough for me to say, oh, after 3 months of just wildly inconsistent play, it's starting to gel like this young team. They've got too many old parts that decide when things are going to go well or when things turn around. So, no, I am not buying. And yes, you're right. I am more disgusted than I am enthused.
Yeah.
They also have Pittsburgh for 3. They have Colorado out the gate of the All-Star break, which is not a good team. Washington's on that schedule.
Let's go. Schedule's favorable.
So if Judd, if you think the furious rallies are here, I mean, there's a wide opportunity here to take probably 6 of 9, 7 to 9 100%. Games or so for some of the worst teams in baseball.
Right up to the deadline. This is absolutely worst case. It's going to take them, and they're going to be playing well, and they're going to say, well, we can't sell, and the poll ads and our guy Falvey's going to say, yeah, you know what? We're here. And I'm telling you, August 2nd, or just look at the schedule after August, it's just all going to go in the crapper. And that's how these type of teams live their lives.
So Judd's very excited is the summary of
this is one of my, I told you, I've seen this before. I've seen this from various teams in this town. It just makes me want to.
Well, okay, not to like jump. I know Declan's got stuff we're going to get into here. So if I'm cutting in line, just tell me to stop and we'll get to it. But like the biggest question would be, is this going to be a thing where Byron Buxton now misses like a lengthy period of time? Because my opinion could change. Like this is a nice little week. And you've moved yourself up 2 notches in the wild card race. 0 chance to win the division, which also impacts your trade deadline activity. If Byron Buxton were to be guaranteed to stay healthy and on the team performing at a high level, I would say, I mean, they would absolutely still have a shot at a wild card. If he's going to miss like a month or something, then okay, shut it down and sell and forget about winning these 4 games this week.
Yeah, he had like a softer cast on his wrist yesterday. Said stung up a little bit, but he said we'll be all right. Is what Buck said. I would assume they're wrapping things up against the Cubs this afternoon. It's a 12-10 first pitch. I'm betting he's probably out of the lineup for this series finale, and he's probably going to be rested and assured that if he can go to the All-Star game, great. Play in the home run derby, awesome. But yeah, it was just poetic seeing him get hit. Just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Just one of the classics. You got to be kidding me. Is this really happening? Then he steals second, and you're like, oh, he's fine. And then he's out of the game. In the next
legs
inning.
are fine.
Yeah, his legs are fine. Legs are fine. That's true. Well, Joe brings up a good point though, because I think at times watching the team now for essentially the last 162 games, because it was about a year ago in August that they went in the tailspin. And ever since then, they have just never really been a consistent team. Yeah, a 13-game win streak this May, 4 out of 5 here, which any team, in my opinion, can win 4 out of 5 over 162 games. I feel at times there's either a disconnect or just a lack of understanding of what this team actually has. So on one side, you have 3 of your 4 hitters this year, 3 of your 4 best hitters on paper this year, pretty much failing to live up to expectations. And those guys would be Carlos Correa, Matt Wallner, who had a homer yesterday, and also Royce Lewis. Now, Royce, again, starting to maybe string something together here, but still, it's July 10th. We are 4 days from the All-Star break. And what was supposed to be your cornerstone MVP player has a 595 OPS on the season. What? My windy fingers. Why is that? Why is it a guy that at times, and I think at his peak, right, is probably one of the 20 to 25, maybe even a top 10 hitter in baseball when he's playing at his absolute peak, and a guy could flirt with maybe being an MVP one day. And then his other extreme is legitimately one of the 10 to 15 worst hitters in baseball. And I find that incredibly interesting that's also kind of a swing sometimes with Wallner, where Wallner looks like he is legitimately a power threat and he can absolutely carry a lineup and smack some home runs. And then there's a 30-game sample size where he's legitimately hitting 150 on the season and striking out in 40% of at-bats. There's some nice pieces here. There's been some bright spots, but when you have 3 of your 4 best hitters failing to live up to expectation, and when you look at the entire lineup as a whole, like if we were to look 1 through 9 and say who's living up to expectation or exceeding, I think it's a better word, who is exceeding expectations in this lineup, it's probably Buxton, Castro. You can make a case for Brooks Lee that there's been an adjustment, but he's not tearing the cover off the ball. He's not exceeding. So yes, the organization thinks they have a chance here, and I'm sure that's going to frustrate the hell out of Judd if they do nothing at the trade deadline. But just watching and learning and discussing some things here, it just feels like there's at times a disconnect between what this organization thinks they are and what they actually can do.
So I want to take what you just said and I guess answer it with another question, because it feels like over the past couple of years, just rumblings behind the scenes, and a lot of it spilling over publicly, even going back to last year, that there's frustration because players and staff feel like the collective, even with some of the injuries, but that the collective the last 2 years is not living up to what it should be. Like you look at the names on paper, you just laid it out, the Correas, Royce Lewis's, Wallner this year, etc. Even some of the other peripheral players, like Brooks Lee's been serviceable offensively, but he's yet to really break out yet. He's still young, and some other guys. It feels like people in the organization are looking at players and saying, go, do, be better, live up to your standard. Why are you not playing at your 85th or 90th percentile? And there's players that are looking sometimes at other players and sometimes at the organization and wondering, what are we doing here? What is the plan? It feels like there's a lot of dissonance behind the scenes in the Twins organization. And my biggest thing is, if you zoom out to 30,000 feet here, if they've put together on paper a playoff caliber 26-man roster that could absorb some injuries if everybody was performing even at like their average level, right? Because injuries happen in baseball. But why is it that so many key players are performing below their baseline? Because if these guys, I'm not even saying like Correa, Lewis, Wallner, and throw some other names. I mean, even like Trevor Larnach is a former first-round pick. Like, I'm not even saying that they have to perform at an MVP level. If they were performing at their baseline talent level, what they've shown for stretches before, this team would be well above 500 and absorbing some of these injuries. That's the big organizational why. Is it, well, these players are just like not putting in the work or the prep or whatever it is, or they're more banged up than is being, let out to the public? Or is there something organizationally from manager to field staff to the preparation that is preventing a lot of these players from performing at their highest percentile? I don't know the answer, but that's the big question for me.
I got a theory on this, and it's been an issue in probably since about 2021. But I think the way that the Twins are run, Phil, and I think that you put it perfectly there, which is they say, go, be, do you, do, and I feel like, so when we bring up Correa, Wallner, and Royce, which Declan did, I feel like we're bringing up three very different people at different stages of their careers and very different expectations, okay? And it's my opinion that the way, and this is probably a baseball problem now that goes beyond the Twins. I think that there's too much of a go be you, do what you do without any personal approach. Like Carlos Correa to me is a very different discussion. This is a veteran, like there are questions about his decline, but I would never lump him in with Royce and Wallner because Carlos Correa needs to get himself going. And the reality is he might just be breaking down.
It might be physical.
Right. Like
it might
we
be
know,
physical with him.
Like we can laugh at the Mets and Giants doctors all we want and ridicule them and say, we got him and you didn't. But at the end of the day, two organizations on either side of the coast had a doctor, and I don't care if it's the same guy or not, but basically advised them this contract is a bad deal. It was a leg problem. I know nothing about the connection between that and feet and foot problems, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're connected. And so Correa might be physical. And that's a situation where I think that's very different. Royce is a different one because anyone who has sort of covered Royce or been around Royce, and Declan has a ton, knows that Royce is a bit of a different cat. And he's a West Coast guy. Joe Ryan, different cat. Guess what? West Coast guy. West Coast guys are often different cats, which is fine. But, Royce is still a young guy. And so I have questions there about how he's been handled, what's been tolerated there. And look, this is on Royce as well. I'm not absolving him, but I think he's a very different situation. Matt Wallner, power hitter from Forest Lake, Minnesota. Okay, so now we're talking about a Midwest kid, sort of a farm boy looking kid who hits for power and goes through these massive fluctuations of I'm either going to hit 10 home runs in 2 weeks or strike out 20 times in 2 weeks. And I wonder if the Twins, and this starts at the top, so just to be clear here, I am not putting all of this on Rocco because that's not fair. But starting at the top, I just wonder about the individual approach to people here because it feels like there is a lot of common failure, but there's no common tie-in necessarily between the personalities and people who are failing, if that makes any sense.
No, I think that's accurate. Just talking to a few players, I do get the sense that they sometimes, I don't want to use the word are held back, but they are prevented from doing the things that they think could be successful. The things that they did in the minors that they were successful at. Like, I know Royce Lewis has had soft tissue issues, but that was a guy who stole bases and was very fast at every single level. And he's someone I think too, I know he has the injury history lower half, but has the ability when he's a full go to be a threat on the bases. Mm-hmm. And basically since he's been up here in his prime, they have told him, don't steal a base. Now, I actually maybe might side more with an organization that has a player that has significant soft tissue issues, but then you have the lefty situation where guys like Wallner and like Larnach, Larnach has been very ineffective against lefties, and they've given him a run this year. It has not gone well. But it is difficult to get into a rhythm and routine when you have been playing against lefties or playing every day in the minors, and then every 2 days there's a start and stop, or maybe you're only going to play 4 days over 7 days, or 4 games in 7 days. So sometimes there's just, I think Phil said the good word, dissonance sometimes between what the players want from the organization and then also what the coaching staff and organization is giving to their players. You know, I hear this all the time in the clubhouse from the coaching staff and players. Well, if the Tigers can do it, why can't we do it? And I think this comes down to one very simple thing. And I don't think I'm saying this without hyperbole. AJ Hinch is probably one of the 5 best managers in baseball, right? Am I overrating that? I don't think I am.
Houston and Detroit track records. Of course, he was also the manager that oversaw the trash can banging scandal for probably a couple of years. But yeah,
he's good with people, I think, for sure.
Yeah, he's good with people.
He's a connector.
The preparation is off the charts. Like Correa's talked about that. The Sunday Night Baseball game a few weeks ago with the Twins and Tigers, the broadcast, I swear to God, mentioned it 15 times. And maybe I'm just overrating and overvaluing that. But that's a different situation. And talent-wise, yes, I do think if you looked at it on paper, I think a lot of experts, executives would look on paper and say, well, that Twins roster is better. But why isn't it living up to expectation? And also, this is not just 1 6-week in the end of 2024 when you went in the tailspin. This is 5 years, 4 or 5 years now of having this collection together. And there's been one playoff appearance and a nice little run, but nothing to be built upon. And Cleveland's been in the ALCS. The Tigers took over your spot. The Royals came out of left field last year and made the playoffs. How come you haven't been able to sustain the success? And hey, look, they've won 4 or 5. Maybe this has turned around for good, and we're all going to look like idiots with yolk on our face when they're in the playoffs in October. But I do just sense, if you look at the whole thing, not just the last week of 4 or 5, that there is still this like disconnect that I have at least observed at times over the last year and a half of covering the team.
Yep. And just to go back to the 3 players that you highlighted a few minutes ago. So Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Matt Wallner. If you just isolated those 3 guys and nothing else changed, the Pablo injury still exists, the Bailey Ober hip stuff still exists, like things that every baseball team has to deal with over the course of 6 months, plus spring training and playoffs, it winds up being like 8.5 months, whatever it is. Those 3 players, to this point, according to Baseball Reference, have been worth a combined half win above replacement. A half win above replacement. And I know that I can get a little wonky sometimes with like the analytics and the wins above replacement, but it really is like it's a broadly good way to show a player's value. The best players in baseball are 6, 8, maybe 10 wins above replacement if you're like an Aaron Judge or a Shohei Ohtani. The Twins paid for 5 to 6 wins above replacement per year with Carlos Correa. That's why you give him $35 million a year, to get 5 or 6 wins above replacement over just like a slappy shortstop at a key position. Royce Lewis, they drafted a kid several years ago that has the ability to be a 5, 6, maybe 7 wins above replacement player. And when he's been healthy, and you kind of extrapolate his sample sizes, he's been that. And Matt Wallner, the last couple of years, even with some slumps, in like half seasons has been worth 2.5 wins above replacement. So I bring all this up to say that if nothing else changed and you were to just take those 3 players and put them at their baselines, they would be worth, as a team, between the first game of the season and July 9th last night, 5 or 6 extra wins. If those guys, even like missing time with injuries baked into it, those guys would be worth 5 or 6, let's call it 5 extra wins above where they are right now, which would put their record at 50-42. And what would we be talking about here today if those 3 guys were performing at what they should be performing at baseline-wise, despite the injury to your number 1 starter, despite the injury to Bailey Ober and some other things that have kind of gone haywire here? Boy, you're still 50-42, which would put you 2 games up in that 3rd wildcard spot and only 7 games back of Detroit, which is like, okay, now you're 13 back now. It'd be like 7 or 8 back if you flip this. it'd be a totally different. Those 5 extra wins from those 3 players would make this entire conversation feel differently. So I do think you've highlighted the right 3 here. It's like, all right, you guys are out there. You're healthy enough. You're playing. What are we doing here? Why is this happening?
Those 3 guys, though, if they are performing up to standards, especially starting with Carlos, you're not talking about these massive swings. Like April might have not been great, but it's not a disaster, which it basically was. Then May is fantastic. Then June, you go back into disaster mode. So like that's what it's baseball is a game of fluctuations and streaks. I get that, okay? But if you're going to be anything of a consistent team that's going to make a playoff and be a legitimate contender, it's not like I watch the Twins and think, okay, if this team goes to the playoffs, I think they've got a great chance. I don't. But if those guys are doing what you're talking about,
and that Lopez comes back,
yeah, exactly. Now it's a completely different conversation, and I find it interesting because I don't think that you can chalk up the disappointment of all 3 to the same thing. The Correa thing might be a real problem. Like again, that might just be an albatross contract, and if that's the case, that sucks. But on like Royce and Wallner, and the question too is on Matt especially. Why every time you seem to get him turned around? A year ago he gets off to that terrible start, Dex. He goes to St. Paul. He goes hog wild, unbelievable. Comes back here and actually plays well. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. You learned that. You now have that reference point in your career to avoid that again, right? But then we go right back. So and yes, it's the kid's fault as well. Again, I don't absolve players completely, but I also look at the team sideways and say, why did that happen again to a player who you have a lot invested in? And I'll go back to, this team in at least a similar vein slightly of Wallner traded Brent Rooker to San Diego in the Paddock trade. And he was sort of just slept in there, thrown in there.
Because they had a ton of depth at the corner outfield spots too. And that depth included Wallner and Larnach coming through.
But that's what we have
off at the time.
Right. But the question is too, like, on Larnach and Wallner too, why do we have, they're certainly not the same player, the same type of regressions? So like this to me is not something where I can just look at the players and say, all on you, you screwed up, bravo, Falvey and Rocco. This is a situation where I'm looking, Declan, sideways at the team as well, saying, why do we have these consistencies of inconsistency permeating this team so much?
So I'll say this. Number one, on Larnach, I think Larnach is just a consistent, fine, decent hitter. Like I don't think he's going to live up to being an 800, 900, or even like a 900 OPS type of guy, but he can spray the ball. He can shoot it to the other way now. He's become a much more rounded hitter, and that guy stunk when he first came up to the big leagues, and he's made adjustments. He changed his entire approach, and he's figured out an approach that I think can keep him in the big leagues. On Wallner, because same thing, I was like, okay, what's going on here? I kind of wanted to get to the bottom of like, is this just, is there something wrong with him? And it just feels like, from what I've gathered, is he's not a pitcher, number one, that's like Larnach, where he can shoot the. You're not going to see Matt Wallner hit the opposite way and bloop one in over the shortstop's head. That's not who he is. He is going to have a long, powerful, I believe the term I heard was violent swing, which he does. When you see him swing and miss, it's insane. It's like the hardest swing I've ever seen in my life. But what you're also seeing is pitchers now pitching him more belt high. And even though he has this big, farm boy strength, as Judd called it, look at where his power comes from. It comes from almost that golf, that low and away. That's where the home run was yesterday. It was just a little bit lower in the middle of the zone, parks it just over the foul pole. It's kind of a goofy home run, but that's where he can make his hay. If you start pitching him above, well, now as a hitter, Wallner, and also as a coaching staff, you got to figure out ways. All right, how do I now hit a belt high fastball? Or now how do I at least not even have to park it out of the yard? How do I put the ball in play where I'm not swinging and missing at it all the time? So I think it's so interesting because that is who he is. He's a player of violent swings, production wise. When he came up last year, he was their best hitter from there on out. Wasn't even close. But and yes, maybe things turn around, but I think that's just who you have to live with as Matt Wallner. It's a guy who's going to have violent paths of streaks of hot and cold, and I don't think that necessarily gets changed. But Trevor Larnach was able to make the adjustment. Maybe it changes with Wallner, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it's just going to be Those three guys really are the key, and obviously Buxton staying healthy. And you post something else just to kind of put a bow on this. Who in this lineup has been outperforming their expectation or like their baseline average production? And you kind of throw out Buxton, but I actually don't. I don't think Buxton's outperform. I think Buxton's outperforming health. Like he's
we're just happy he's healthy.
This is who he's been for like 6 years when he's playing. He's a 500 slugging guy. He's a guy that can hit 270, 280 and steal some bases. He's gonna hit like over the course of 600 plate appearances. He's gonna hit like 35 home runs, but he's got to stay out there. So I wouldn't even put him in that bin. And I don't know. Willie Castro has. You could say maybe he's outperforming a little bit, but he's been a guy that can work some counts and hit for some power, and he's not like wildly outperforming. So really, I actually think the answer is Cody Clemens is like the only guy that you would say is wildly outperforming. Harrison Bader was early. His numbers have really settled in. He's outperforming slightly, like his on base and some of the other numbers, but that's it. The rest of them are all under or at their baseline.
So Dex, I got a question though off of those three because Correa is a problem, but he's also 31 now, or I mean he's up there as far as like his contract and his years. Wallner is inconsistent. That's not great. But I want to ask you about Royce. Like, because in my opinion, if we're talking about this list right now, 2025, the importance of guys figuring it out or getting the help that they need to do so, Royce is my top guy. Like Royce is number one pick. We've seen what he can do, and it's pretty scary. I mean, at his best. So what is your, from covering the team and being around, what is your theory or what needs to happen to maximize Royce? Because yes, the injuries are a problem, but it also feels like it goes beyond that at times. And the regression to me, like you can't just trade him one day and say it didn't work out. That to me is a massive problem.
Huge problem. I would say number one, I think they have to let him be Royce. I think at times, sometimes the organization or the coaching staff, more importantly, maybe wants to rein him in a little bit. And look, I think as he's now 26, right? Going on 27 years old. He's a little bit older. Naturally, I mean, when I was 23, 24, thinking I was on top of the world, I definitely had a different outlook on the world that I do right now at 32. But I think they have to empower him to be Royce. And if you start to try to box him into something he's not, and now you maybe have a player that is fighting against that in a negative way, not in a positive way, I think that can now show up in numbers and show up in production. I think he should be obviously much better than where he is at right now, but I think that might have to do with a little bit of some of it there. Obviously, the injuries suck, man. Like he's now missed more time with injuries this year. It's hard to get into a rhythm. But I think they have to empower him to just be him. Like, I'm not saying leave him alone necessarily because everyone's still coachable, but don't box him into someone maybe he shouldn't be.
He definitely there's been some rumblings that he'd love to have the green light more on the bases and like use his athletic ability. But I actually do side with the organization if they are telling him, hey man, take it easy out there, and he's feeling like I need to be me and cut it loose. You've already been on the shelf twice with soft tissue issues this year, and that doesn't count previous years. It's an issue. And it's tough because, like, with Byron Buxton, they tried to play that game for a long time, too, until they got to a point where, all right, well, hell, he's 30 years old now. Like, nothing we've tried to this point has worked. So just go out there and steal 30 bases if you want to, and it's worked out well. I will say this about Royce, and there was a 2-week injured list stint in here, but since the beginning of June, it's 61 plate appearances, so small sample size, but he's hitting .333 with an .856 OPS, only 8 strikeouts in those 61 plate appearances. So it has started to turn since the beginning of June, even with the 2 weeks that he missed. So maybe we're seeing, and he had a double last night, whatever, but like maybe we're seeing, if that dude stays on the field and gets hot in Royce Lewis fashion for the last 3 months of the year, that's another thing that could cement your status as a wild card team. You're not catching the Tigers at this point, 13 games back.
Yeah, I would say if that 321 average and he becomes and the 900 OPS, if he becomes the Royce Lewis that we know and he's a catalyst, I do think, as we joke, like, don't let the Twins get hot. That would be a driving force as to, bleep, don't let the Twins get hot. Because if that's the player he is, the rest of the way that he's supposed to be, then I do think like we do have to change our conversation of, they actually could sneak into the wild card and make some damage. I got a random Twin for you guys here coming up in just a second.
Party.
But a shout out to Grandpa's Barbecue, which you can find at all Fratelloni hardware and garden stores here locally. Grandpa's Barbecue is in all the 20 Fratelloni locations. You also can go to grandpa'sbarbecueshop.com. Twin Show listeners get free shipping on orders $50 or more. There's dry rubs, there's sauces. So we're in the heart of barbecue season right now. So they also, when you make a purchase there, it sports xeroderma pigmentosum, which helps out a unique condition. So go to grandpa'sbarbecueshop.com to place your order. All right. Baseball. Random Twin of the week coming up here. I'm in studio, so I can't play the what is it? Wheel of Fortune.
The music. Oh, yeah, the music. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire
bed? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire bed. I was mixing up my game shows. So we'll just be very quiet here as I give. It's like Masters. Okay. I'll give the clues very, very quietly.
You'll be able to hear our thoughts as we process the Random Twin of the week. Yeah.
So here's the standings. Judd won last week with Kirby Puckett. He has now 29 wins. Phil has 33 wins, but it's been a while. Phil, you have not won in Random Twin in 1, 2, 3, 4, the last since Terry Steinbeck. So it's been about 5 turns in Random Twin of the week since the last time you pulled out a victory.
I'm like Matt Wallner. I give you a ridiculous hot stretch.
He's not wrong.
Jim Thome, Lou Ford, Terry Steinbach, and then now you have to send me back down to Random Twin minor leagues or something.
Love it. All right. So if you guys are set here we go on Random Twin. This Random Twin played exclusively in Central Divisions.
Okay.
That's your first clue. Exclusively in Central Divisions.
Okay.
3 teams also in his MLB career. 3 teams. I don't remember I'll say this. I don't remember the NL Central stint. He had a stint in the NL Central.
Central, okay.
Yeah.
At the end, I don't remember that. So that might be a clue.
Okay.
That might be a clue.
All right. I'm going to get the other Random Twins up here on my screen, so I'm not cheating.
The control effing. Yeah, it's tough now because we have.
I'm not cheating.
We've done like 80 of these here, so
yeah.
Got to control F these.
Another one for you here. When this Random Twin came up to the big leagues, he was the 2nd youngest player in all of baseball.
Wow.
That's according to Baseball Reference. And in the next season, he was the 8th youngest player in all of baseball.
Oh, boy.
As a prospect, here's where this Random Twin ranked according to Baseball America. In 5 years, by the way, he was ranked 5 years in the minor leagues. 70, 55, 63, 86, 93. So never a top 50 prospect, but one of the top 100 prospects in baseball.
Interesting that he was on that list for 5 years, too.
Yeah.
And that he was called up, I'm trying to think out loud here, but he was called up, probably failed a little bit. Okay.
All of that happened with the Twins. Those rankings when he was a prospect. That was a Twins prospect, by the way.
Oh, this is juicy. Okay.
According to Wikipedia, this is a really funny write-up of the summary of this player. This is literally in his Wikipedia. He was also competent at ranging back on pop-ups. That's in his Wikipedia.
That's you know what that is? I don't know how it works now, and it used to be that anyone could just edit a Wikipedia page. Now I think you have to submit, and then I don't know how that works. But that's his agency got into the login or something, or into the backside. So what are some specific compliments we can put in here?
Pop-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And it specifically says pop-ups?
Yep. On pop-ups.
Yeah, okay.
So he was great at just waving guys off, both hands.
feel like this gives us a idea of the position.
Maybe.
I feel like it's a tip from the gods. Okay.
Might be another one here for you. This might be more of a giveaway, I think. According to his Wikipedia, this random twin was known to be a free swinging hitter who will offer at almost any pitch, often putting it in play.
We've already done Carlos Gomez, and he wasn't putting those pitches in play. He played for the Mets, so
And he played out. I was gonna say he played outside the division because he ended in Houston. I think he ended in Houston. Free swinger.
Twice, this random twin finished in the top 10 of the American League in sacrifice hits.
Okay, so, okay. Sacrifice, like just sacrifices?
Sacrifice hits, yeah. So what it says on Baseball Reference.
Okay.
No, this guy didn't. Have we not done him? I'm looking up. I feel that we have a scrappy player here, a very scrappy player, but it's not Nick Punto. Okay.
Yeah, this random twin's 8-year career in the big leagues accumulated a career WAR of negative 1.5.
Oh boy.
648 games in the big leagues, by the way, in the regular season.
Oh, man.
He played in 16 playoff games in his big league career.
Oh,
Is he going to get it? Is he going to get
he
it?
wouldn't have played in all those, though, would he? Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3, 5.
He's doing math in his head. Judd, snipe him. Snipe him, Judd.
So it would have
He's
been
sniffing it out.
I have no idea. I don't know. I can't snipe him when I don't know.
through that period, but minus 1.5 WAR.
I'm a little surprised. I mean, I didn't think he would have like a great career WAR. I'm surprised his career WAR is minus. I'll say that. That's a clue.
So sacrifice hits.
Sacrifice hits, yeah.
So,
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
control
guess.
F a name here.
yeah, I guess.
I'm a little stumped here. No, we already did that guy.
All right, maybe this one. This
Three
one might give it
Central
away a little
Three
bit.
Central Division teams is sort of hanging me up here.
I'm trying to figure out the era here.
Plus, he was a bust.
He committed the third most errors at his position one season. In his first full season.
I don't think this guy.
Third most errors. So he was to get to minus WAR. You got to be a bad offensive player and also either play terrible defense or play a position of little defensive value.
This random twin had a career OPS of 681.
That's actually not as terrible as I
No.
was thinking it would be. I mean, it's below average.
This is not
in
making any
most
sense.
seasons, but
The puzzle is not fitting together. Third most errors.
what? This is wild.
He was
No.
he had 9 triples, which was 4th best in the American League.
Is it Christian Guzman?
Incorrect.
Okay, that's what I was gonna.
He played for Washington too.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I got a strike.
He had 20 triples one year.
Yeah.
Christian Guzman.
Yeah, he was a triples machine.
You said he had 9 triples in 1 year.
Yep. Also stole 31 bases his first full season in the big leagues.
Okay, I guess is this Alexi Casilla? No, we already did him. We did him.
That's incorrect.
I mean, I burned a guess. We already
burned
did
a
him.
guess, but
so.
yeah.
So wait. So he had 31.
It's Luis Rivas.
There you go.
Luis Rivas.
Luis Rivas. My next clue was which wouldn't have helped you. My first favorite Twin, Luis Rivas.
Luis Rivas, man. Like when he came up, I remember him. It was like, here we go. We're adding this incredible prospect. Perfect Twin, scrappy, steals bases, hits the ball behind the runner, And so he was he considered a much worse defensive infielder than maybe we thought when we were watching Twins baseball in the early 2000s?
I mean, I gave you the errors committed, but like if you go to his defensive WAR, he was worth negative 3.2 defensive WAR in his career. He actually accumulated 3.6 positive offensive WAR in his career.
And he played for, was it the Royals and the Pirates or Cubs?
He played for Cleveland in 2007 for just for 4 games. Okay, and then he did go to Pittsburgh in 2008, and he spent like half a season there.
Okay.
Cool. I don't remember the Pittsburgh stint.
Dude. Louis Rivas. Already on. All right, back on the board. Matty Wallner, Phil Mackey.
Yep.
Back on the right track again.
We'll call you back up.
That's right.
Let's go.
That's right. Hey, we have another episode of the SKOR North Twins Show coming in your feed here shortly. Our guy Doogie sat down with Derek Falvey earlier this week, plus his thoughts on the Twins trade deadline. Hell, maybe even another extra innings recap from the Cubs. So you got your Twins content locked and loaded. Hit the subscribe button here. This is the SKOR North Twins Show.